Okay, let's unpack this. Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone.
Glad to be here. We've got a lot of data to get through today.
We really do. So if you're holding cloud or AI stocks, you need to be paying attention to this one. Today, we're tearing into the Q1 fiscal 2027 earnings transcript for MongoDB, ticker symbol MDB.
Yeah, and this is a classic Talk Tickers breakdown.
Exactly. Our mission here is data forward, plain language, and, well, highly opinionated. We're going to strip away all the Wall Street jargon and figure out what these results actually mean for your portfolio.
Right, because the big question here is whether MongoDB is just another legacy cloud company riding a temporary hype cycle. Or if they've actually structurally positioned themselves as the underlying memory layer for the whole AI revolution.
I mean, imagine building a database architecture for 15 years, getting knocked by critics the entire time for not playing by the traditional rules, right? And then suddenly generative AI crashes perfectly under your surfboard. It's crazy timing. But the numbers they just dropped, they strongly suggest that's exactly what's happening. The entire tech ecosystem suddenly needs what they built.
Let's start with the headline numbers, because this wasn't just a slight beat on expectations. Total revenue came in at $688 million for the quarter.
Which is huge. That is a 25% increase year over year.
Yeah, they completely blew past the high end of their own guidance.
They really did. And what stands out mechanically here is that they accelerated from the 22% growth they posted in the first quarters of the prior 2 years.
Wait, they accelerated?
Yeah.
Because usually as the absolute revenue base gets larger, just maintaining growth is hard enough.
Exactly. Accelerating it at this scale requires a fundamental shift in market demand. It's not just regular linear growth anymore.
And they are doing it profitably, which, as an investor is where the operational muscle really shows. Non-GAAP net income hit $112 million.
Giving us an EPS, or earnings per share, of $1.32. Right, and compare that to exactly $1 a year ago, a 32% jump in profitability on 25% revenue growth.
That tells me they are getting incredible leverage out of their infrastructure. I mean, they aren't just burning cash on marketing to acquire that top line growth.
Yeah, they're actually making real money. They even hit their second straight quarter of GAAP profitability.
And that GAAP profitability is, it's a critical threshold. It proves the underlying unit economics of their consumption model are structurally sound.
But if we want to diagnose the actual engine of this growth, I think we have to isolate Atlas, right? Their fully managed cloud database service.
Absolutely. Atlas is the star of the show. It grew 29.4% year over year.
Wow.
Yeah. They added a record $117 million in net new Atlas revenue just in this 90-day period.
That's just wild. So Atlas now accounts for what, 75% of their total revenue?
Yep, 75%. It's operating at a $2 billion annual run rate now.
Okay, wait. I need to push back on that 29% Atlas growth for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
In the current enterprise environment, IT budgets are still tight, right? CIOs are scrutinizing every single cloud bill.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone is trying to cut costs.
So when I see a massive revenue spike like that, my first instinct as an investor is to question the quality of the revenue. Like, are they pulling forward long-term consumption contracts with heavy discounts just to make the quarter look spectacular? Or is this actually fresh, compounding consumption from existing users?
That's a really fair question. But you verify the quality of that revenue by looking directly at their net ARR expansion rate.
Annual recurring revenue.
Right. And that metric completely invalidates the idea of counting magic here. Their net ARR expansion rate hit 121% this quarter.
Up from 119% a year ago.
Exactly.
So translate that for us. That means a cohort of existing customers organically increased their platform spend by 21% over the last 12 months, even factoring in any churn or downgrades.
You got it. This isn't the sales team landing new logos with crazy discounts. This is existing engineering teams deploying more workloads, pushing more data, and, running more queries through Atlas.
Because in a consumption-based model, you only pay for what you use.
Right. 121% expansion rate means the product is proving so mission critical that developers are naturally scaling up their usage. It's organic.
Combine that with the fact that they still brought in 2,500 net new customers in Q1.
Yeah, bringing the total base over 67,700. So you have a dual engine growth mechanism. They are landing at volume and expanding aggressively within those accounts.
And catching the whales too, right? Moving up market is great for the spreadsheet. They now have almost 2,900 customers generating over 100,000 in ARR.
Yeah, the big enterprise adoption is definitely there.
But to really trust this growth, we need to understand the why. Why did 2,500 new companies suddenly decide MongoDB was a necessity this quarter? Like, what is the actual technological trigger driving this migration?
Well, it comes down to two intersecting macroeconomic tailwinds.
Okay, what's the first one?
The first is legacy enterprise modernization, just moving off on-premise hardware into the cloud. We've been seeing that for a while.
Right, the standard digital transformation stuff.
Yeah.
But what's the second trigger?
The second and vastly more powerful trigger is the explosion of agentic AI workloads.
Ah, there it is, generative AI.
Exactly. To understand why MongoDB is capturing this, you have to look at how large language models natively process information.
Okay, break that down for us, because LLMs don't think in neat two-dimensional tables, do they?
No, they don't. They process data in messy, nested, unstructured concepts. The CEO, CJ Desai, actually noted on the call that LLMs speak the language of JSON.
JavaScript object notation.
Right.
And JSON is essentially just document-shaped data. It's not a spreadsheet.
Exactly. And this is where the fundamental architecture of databases becomes the ultimate bottleneck.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for the listeners. Think of a traditional SQL relational database, your Oracles, your Postgres environments.
The legacy systems.
Right. Think of them like a heavy metal filing cabinet. It is virtually indestructible and highly organized.
What?
But it only works if every single piece of paper you ever insert is the exact same 8 by 10 dimension.
Right. The schema is totally rigid.
So if an AI application suddenly generates a strangely shaped poster tube of data, the filing cabinet literally jams. You can't put it in.
It just rejects it.
Yeah. You have to hire an engineer to alter the schema, redesign the drawer, and manually rebuild the table before you can even store that new data point.
And that schema alteration is a massive operational tax. It causes database locking, it requires downtime, and it completely breaks the agility of the development cycle.
It slows everything down.
Exactly. Now, contrast that metal filing cabinet with MongoDB, which was built 15 years ago, specifically as a document database.
Right. So instead of a rigid metal cabinet, it's more like a magic box.
Magic box.
Yeah, a magic box that instantly morphs to perfectly fit whatever unstructured, nested data the application throws at it, no matter the shape.
Precisely. It utilizes a flexible, dynamic schema. And this is why it has become the default data layer for prompt-driven development.
Because the AI is constantly changing the shape of the data.
Right. When an engineer, or increasingly an AI coding assistant, uses natural language prompts to generate an application, the shape of that application's data changes with every single iteration.
So if you ask an AI to add a new user feature, it needs to instantly write new data structures.
Yeah, and a relational database literally cannot keep up with the velocity of AI-generated code. It just breaks.
But MongoDB's flexible schema simply accepts the new document structure on the fly.
Exactly. Without any downtime or manual engineering intervention, it just works.
Which brings us to the shift from basic LLMs to actual AI agents, because that's the next frontier, right?
Oh, absolutely. A standard chatbot is reactive. It answers a question and then, forgets you exist.
Right. But an AI agent is proactive. It receives a complex goal, breaks it down into parallel steps, reads external data, executes transactions, and maintains a continuous state over hours or even days.
And agents require memory to do all of that.
They have to remember what they just did a millisecond ago.
Exactly. To orchestrate a multi-step task, the agent needs a transactional, high-velocity database to store its operational state, retrieve historical context, and execute decisions in real time.
So if you try to run an autonomous agent on top of an archaic analytical database built for, overnight batch processing,
the latency will completely choke the application. I mean, the agent is thinking in milliseconds, but the database is responding in seconds. It's a massive mismatch.
This is exactly why the performance metrics for MongoDB's new version 8.3 are so vital. They highlighted this on the call.
Yeah, the performance upgrades are wild.
They noted that without changing a single line of code, upgrading to 8.3 delivers up to 45% more reads and 35% more writes.
And a 15% increase in ACID transactions over version 8.0.
Okay, we need to define that. That 15% bump in AC transactions, that is the crucial metric for enterprise adoption, right?
It really is. ACID compliance stands for atomicity, consistency, isolation, durability.
Which basically guarantees that a database transaction is processed reliably.
Exactly. If a financial transaction fails halfway through, the database automatically rolls it back so you don't end up with corrupted ledgers.
Because historically, the big knock on NoSQL flexible document databases was that they weren't safe, right?
Right. Critics used to say you couldn't trust them with core banking or inventory ledgers because they prioritized flexibility over absolute transactional consistency.
But MongoDB solved that years ago.
They did. And now they are actively accelerating how fast they can process those highly complex, perfectly secure transactions.
So they are giving developers the flexible JSON shape required for AI alongside the ironclad data integrity required by a Fortune 500 bank.
It's the best of both worlds. And they're tightly coupling that operational data with vector search.
Oh, vector search. We have to talk about this. This is how AI understands the semantic meaning behind data, right?
Exactly. Instead of just searching for the exact letters DOG, a vector embedding translates data into mathematical coordinates in a high-dimensional space.
So words like dog, puppy, and canine are mapped mathematically close to each other.
Right, so the AI understands they mean the same thing, even if the exact keyword isn't there.
But the genius of MongoDB's approach isn't just that they offer vector search, it's that they built it natively into Atlas.
This is a huge competitive advantage. Usually a company has its operational data in one database, and they have to extract, transform, and load ETL that data into a completely separate, specialized vector database.
Like Pinecone, right?
Yeah, exactly, just to run a semantic search.
But that ETL pipeline is a logistical nightmare.
It's terrible. It introduces massive latency, it duplicates your storage costs, and most importantly for enterprise clients, it creates a massive security vulnerability.
Because you're constantly moving sensitive data across networks.
Exactly. By integrating vector search directly into the operational database, MongoDB eliminates the ETL pipeline entirely.
The application can run a semantic AI search on the exact same platform where the live transactional data lives. That is so clean.
It's incredibly efficient. And management didn't just theorize about this on the call, they brought the receipts.
Yeah, let's look at how Adobe is architecting this in the real world. Because they talked about the Adobe Journey Agent, right?
Yes. Adobe built this multimodal AI agent that orchestrates end-to-end consumer marketing campaigns globally. It's a massive undertaking.
And Adobe selected MongoDB Atlas to act as the long-term memory and reasoning layer for that agent.
Right. They are utilizing both standard Atlas search and Atlas vector search simultaneously to power hybrid search.
So the agent can instantly filter millions of user profiles using exact keyword matching while simultaneously running semantic vector searches to understand the context of the user's behavior.
And the latency they reported is staggering. I mean, they are achieving sub 100 millisecond hybrid search.
Less than a tenth of a second.
Yeah. The agent can recall complex historical data, analyze it, and execute a marketing action almost instantly.
You simply cannot achieve that speed if your data is fragmented across an operational database and a standalone vector database. The physics just don't allow it.
Exactly. And we see the exact same architectural decision playing out at Zomato.
Zomato, the world's second largest food delivery platform. They have, 25 million monthly active users?
Something like that. It's huge. Zomato built Nugget, which is an AI-native customer support platform designed to handle an astronomical volume of live support tickets.
Right, and when you're orchestrating 15 million live support conversations a month, the right consistency of the database is everything. You can't drop messages.
You really can't. And what's interesting is Zomato explicitly evaluated Amazon's DynamoDB and DocumentDB.
Which is Amazon's own attempt at a document database, right?
Right. But they still chose MongoDB Atlas over the Amazon native tools.
Why did the Amazon tools fail them in this specific use case?
It came down to the aggregation pipeline and strict write consistency at massive scale.
Because DynamoDB is incredibly fast for basic key value lookups, right?
It is. But when you have an AI agent that needs to instantly aggregate millions of complex historical interaction logs to understand why a customer's order is late.
DynamoDB lacks the native complex querying capabilities of MongoDB.
Exactly. Zomato needed a platform that wouldn't drop a single write operation while 15 million parallel conversations were actively mutating the data.
And the financial ROI on that engineering choice is undeniable. The call noted Zomato reduced their customer support costs by 55%.
While making their human agents 40% more productive.
When a Fortune 500 CIO hears that a peer just halved their operational costs by deploying an AI agent on Atlas, modernizing the data layer immediately shifts from a fun R&D experiment to a board-level mandate.
It absolutely becomes an existential requirement for legacy businesses. If you don't do it, your competitors will, and they'll crush your margins.
But what's equally fascinating is that the AI native startups themselves, the companies born in just the last 3 years, are running into the exact same database bottlenecks.
Yeah, look at 11 Labs, the AI voice generation unicorn.
They recently crossed 500 million in ARR, which is insane growth.
It is, but their growth was literally being strangled by their legacy relational database.
They were running Postgres, right?
Postgres for their core operational data, and they were trying to duct tape a separate search software on top of it.
And as their platform scaled, managing the complex relationships between unstructured audio files, text prompts, and user metadata caused Postgres to choke.
The rigid tables just couldn't handle the velocity. So 11 Labs migrated to MongoDB Atlas specifically because it unifies the operational data and the search capabilities into a single document-based platform.
The engineering lead there explicitly stated that their rapid scaling was being bottlenecked by the data layer, and MongoDB solved it.
CJ Desai pointed out that this is a systemic trend across the entire AI landscape. He broke it down into frontier labs, AI natives, and enterprises.
Right. And the frontier labs, the open secrets being OpenAI, Anthropic, Google DeepMind, they are using MongoDB for mission-critical deployments.
Which is a massive signal. When the smartest AI researchers on the planet, the engineers who are literally defining the future of compute, evaluate every database on the market and choose MongoDB.
It acts as a massive de-risking signal for every other enterprise on the planet. If it's good enough for OpenAI, it's good enough for a regional bank.
Exactly. And MongoDB is aggressively integrating into the developer workflows to ensure they remain the default choice.
Which brings us to their partnership with LangChain. This is vital for developers.
Yeah, LangChain has over 1 billion downloads. It is the dominant framework developers use to build AI applications.
Okay, let's use an analogy here. Think of building an AI agent like setting up a high-end commercial kitchen. The LLM, like GPT-4, is the brilliant executive chef.
I like this. And LangChain.
LangChain is the kitchen layout, the workflow, and the prep stations that allow the chef to actually execute a recipe efficiently.
Okay, so where does MongoDB fit in?
MongoDB is the pantry. If the pantry is disorganized, locked behind rigid doors, or located in a completely different building, the chef is paralyzed. It doesn't matter how good the chef is.
That's a great way to put it. So MongoDB announced over 10 native integrations into LangChain, but the standout is the MongoDB checkpointer for LangGraph.
Right. What is the actual mechanical advantage of this checkpointer? Like, why should an investor care about this specific integration?
Well, LangGraph is used to build complex, multi-actor AI agents. Previously, managing the state and memory of these agents was incredibly fragmented.
How so?
Developers often had to spin up a dedicated instance of a Postgres database for every single agent node, just to ensure it didn't lose its memory during a task.
Oh, wow. So if you have an application with 1,000 active agents,
You are suddenly managing 1,000 mini Postgres instances. It's an absolute DevOps nightmare.
So the checkpointer allows developers to rip out all of those fragmented Postgres instances and consolidate the memory, state, and operational data of every single agent into one centralized MongoDB Atlas cluster.
Exactly. That is ruthless simplification. You are lowering the infrastructure cost and completely eliminating the maintenance burden for the engineering team.
To execute on this unified AI vision, they're also restructuring their leadership, right?
Yeah. They elevated Ben Cefalo to Chief Product Officer for Core Products, ensuring the foundational database remains bulletproof.
But crucially, they brought in Pablo Sternplaza as a dedicated Chief Product Officer for AI and emerging products, based in San Francisco.
Splitting the CPO role is a massive signal. They are treating AI not just as a neat little feature, but as a parallel core business.
They also brought in Erica Vellini as Chief Customer Officer. She helped scale ServiceNow to $10 billion in revenue.
And Ryan McBain as Chief Revenue Officer.
So they're building an executive suite specifically engineered to take this company from a $2 billion run rate to $10 billion.
Yep, they're loading the boat for scale, which brings us to their financial projections and how they plan to fund this expansion.
Right, the guidance. Management guided Q2 revenue between $729 and $734 million.
Representing 23 to 24% growth.
And for the full year, they raised guidance to $2.92 to $2.96 billion.
That top line growth is excellent. But CFO Mike Berry specifically called out that they are targeting a Rule of 40 profile at the high end of their outlook.
Okay, for investors analyzing SaaS architectures, the Rule of 40 is the ultimate litmus test for operational efficiency.
It really is the gold standard. It is the sum of your revenue growth rate and your operating profit margin.
Right, and striking a balance of 40 is exceptionally difficult. Like, a company can easily grow at 40% if they are willing to burn millions of dollars in marketing to subsidize customer acquisition.
Or conversely, you can achieve a 40% profit margin if you got your R&D department, but then your growth will just flatline.
But MongoDB is projecting roughly 20% top-line growth and a 20% operating margin.
Yes, a perfect balance. They are actively expanding their operating margins by 100 to 150 basis points, or 1 to 1.5%, while simultaneously investing heavily in new market penetration.
A prime example of that strategic capital allocation is their recent acquisition, right?
Yes, Clarity Business Solutions. They bought them to accelerate their U.S. federal government business.
The public sector is arguably the largest untapped repository of highly sensitive, unstructured data in the world.
Oh, without a doubt. Intelligence agencies, defense logistics, federal tax records. It is a gold mine for document database architecture.
But you can't just deploy commercial cloud software into the Pentagon. You need a FedRAMP High certification, which dictates the strictest security controls in the federal government.
And MongoDB expects to secure that certification this year.
But the certification alone is just a piece of paper, isn't it?
It is. You need implementation engineers who possess literal top-secret security clearances to physically deploy the software inside air-gapped agency networks.
And that's where Clarity Business Solutions comes in. They've been a trusted partner since 2021, providing exactly that highly cleared personnel.
Right. Acquiring them outright for a nominal $10 million is a brilliant tactical move. MongoDB is internalizing the deepest domain expertise in federal deployments.
Because once you build a FedRAMP high-compliant architecture inside an intelligence agency, the switching costs are practically infinite.
No agency is going to rip out a functioning, highly secure database just to save a few dollars on licensing. It is the ultimate defensive moat.
And CJ Desai also highlighted a brilliant upsell motion here. Historically, many of these government agencies have been quietly running the free, open-source community edition of MongoDB.
Yeah, shadow IT, basically.
Right. But once the FedRAMP High certification is active and the Clarity team is fully integrated, the go-to-market team has an immediate pipeline to aggressively upsell those free users.
Through the highly secure, fully managed Atlas platform or the Enterprise Advanced licenses.
Wait, speaking of Enterprise Advanced, I'm looking at the specific guidance for that EA segment, their on-premise commercial server. Management is guiding for 0% growth in the second half of the year.
Yeah, that caught a lot of people's attention.
If I'm an investor holding this stock, why shouldn't I hit the panic button right now? A major product line projecting completely flat revenue looks like a massive red flag.
I get it. If you just read the headline numbers, it looks like a stall. Yeah. But this is entirely an accounting artifact related to ASC 606 revenue recognition rules.
Okay, break that down, because accounting rules can really distort how a business looks on paper.
Right. You have to understand how on-premise software revenue is recorded compared to cloud consumption.
When a customer scales up their usage of Atlas, MongoDB recognizes that revenue incrementally over time, right? As the compute is actually consumed, it's smooth.
Exactly. It's highly predictable. But under ASC 606, when an enterprise signs a massive multi-year contract for an on-premise Enterprise Advanced license,
MongoDB is legally required to recognize a massive percentage of the total contract value upfront.
Yes. The moment the software is delivered, regardless of when the cash is actually paid over the life of the contract.
Which creates violent, lumpy spikes in quarterly revenue. Depending entirely on the specific week, a massive enterprise decides to sign the contract.
You nailed it. The flat guidance for the second half of the year is entirely due to exceptionally tough comparisons against the second half of fiscal 26.
So last year was abnormally high.
Yeah. Last year, MongoDB closed an unusual number of massive multi-year EA deals in the fourth quarter. The upfront revenue recognition created a massive spike.
So the business isn't shrinking, it's simply being compared to an artificially inflated quarter from last year.
Exactly. And the CFO confirmed they aren't seeing deals slip out of the pipeline. They simply forecast EA conservatively because the timing of 8-figure enterprise contracts is inherently unpredictable.
Furthermore, as Atlas continues to compound at a $2 billion run rate, it begins to mathematically dilute the lumpiness of that legacy EA business anyway.
Right. The consumption model is taking over the steering wheel. The lumpiness won't matter as much going forward.
Okay, so let's bring this all together for the bottom line, talk ticker style. Are we bullish or bearish here?
When you aggregate the data, the 121% net expansion rate, the structural advantage of JSON schemas for prompt-driven development, the sub-100 millisecond latency of vector search at companies like Adobe.
And the discipline margin expansion targeting the rule of 40.
Exactly. The signal here is undeniably bullish.
I agree. MongoDB is actively proving they are not just a beneficiary of the initial cloud migration wave. They have positioned themselves as the absolute bedrock memory layer for the generative AI era.
They built a database architecture optimized for developer flexibility, and the entire AI ecosystem evolved to demand exactly that shape of data. They caught the wave perfectly.
And they're executing flawlessly on the operational front to capture that structural advantage and convert it into high-margin compounding revenue.
Which leaves us with one final dynamic to track, and that's something for everyone listening to really mull over.
Yeah, let's leave them with a provocative thought. We see the frontier labs and the AI native unicorns like 11 Labs aggressively migrating to MongoDB because legacy relational databases literally break under the velocity of AI development.
Right.
If the most advanced engineering teams on Earth cannot force an AI agent to run efficiently on a rigid SQL database, how long until the rest of the Fortune 500 realizes that their legacy on-premise infrastructure is obsolete?
It's a ticking clock.
Exactly. When these massive enterprises realize they have to rip out decades of relational data architecture just to remain competitive in the agentic AI era, the migration wave heading toward MongoDB is going to be staggering.
It's going to be a massive catalyst.
That wraps up our deep dive for today. Keep your eyes on the data, and we will catch you on the next one.